Hi, everyone. Good morning. So before I start, that was incredible. These things for me are amazing because I get to see people like Aji, who I've met before, again, and meet his wife, who I absolutely adore. So a little bit of fangirling backstage for me. So today, I'm going to talk to you all about leveraging AI throughout the product management lifecycle. A little bit of anxiety going on in the world right now around AI, not just for product people, not just for tech teams, but for people in general. But something that we're looking at and something that we're researching now is how product teams are actually leaning more into this as we start to look towards a different future, right? Okay, so by way of introduction, I am Christine Itwaru. I'm the principal strategist at Pendo and Mind the Product. And I'm really excited to just continue to help the community understand the magic of product, right? I've been in the space for over 13 years as an individual contributor, as a leader of product teams, starting product operations and championing that across the world, and now moving into a strategy role here at Pendo and Mind the Product. It's been phenomenal. I think the thing that keeps me in this space and keeps me the most excited is the magic that people like yourselves are able to bring to this world. And magic including experiences and the outcomes that you're driving for customers. So give yourselves a round of applause because it takes a lot of work to get, I'm serious, give yourselves a round of applause. Yeah, it's a lot of work and a lot of headache and a lot of stress. So let's make sure that we're helping each other out as we do it, right? All right, so let's kick off. AI is everywhere, right? It has been a whirlwind of a year, to say the least. Everywhere you turn, you're seeing it. There's LinkedIn. There's not a day you open up LinkedIn and you're not seeing 2 to 3 posts about AI, and just that's probably on the low end, right? You're also looking at the news or listening to news podcasts, and you're hearing all these stories all the time, both good and bad. So you've got to learn how to filter it out. And then social settings. I'll give you a funny story. On Saturday night, I was out with one of my friends, and she's an academic researcher, and she said, I know you love tools, I know you're into product. Help me find the best one so that I can quickly, distill my notes and I can get research out the door faster. And let me tell you, having a glass of wine and talking about Notion and its AI capabilities is bizarre. I think I hit a different stage in my career on Saturday night when that happened. And I forgot about it, and then Sunday she texted me. She's like, what was the thing? So it's everywhere, right? So as product managers, we are constantly faced with changes all around us, right? This is something that we're not it's not foreign to us. So during times of change, we're faced with the challenge of what to do next. And most of the time, we're taking a chance based on the data and the information that we have on hand. And sometimes, in the past, it's been limited data. So this AI evolution and this stuff that we're about to go through will give us so much more so that we can make more informed decisions. And I'll talk to you about that in more detail. What's really interesting to think about is when product teams are given work to do from the top down. So some of you may have this CEO, CPO, head of product culture where they're just handing things to you. And you feel as if, okay, it's certain, I need to do this. But the certainty is the work. The uncertainty is what value and what outcomes it's going to drive for your customers because they're not even certain. Let's be very clear. So what you're doing is you're actually taking a chance, hoping for success based on something that's being handed to you. So chances all the time in our world. We're also in this place where new tech and tooling is everywhere, right? You have to determine what is worth your time, what's worth your energy. We develop a little bit of cynicism being in the tech space as product people because we're constantly being faced with vendors. Sorry, I love all of our sponsors, but I will tell you that personally, when I get asked to look at a new tool, I'm like, oh gosh, what is this one for now? Is this just a reimagined thing, something that I already know and I'm familiar with? It's driving the same outcome. It's just a little bit more snazzy. The UI is a little bit better. Generally, I start to feel, and some people start to feel that it's just generating a bit of buzz, right? Again, slightly reimagined version of something that already exists. So people like us, we're a little bit tricky to sell into. And that's what makes our job also really rewarding, because it's challenging to try to drive a different experience that's going to drive the outcome that the customer wants. But tooling is everywhere, and it's really hard for you to figure out where to put your time and your energy. I had to throw her in here. I know, she speaks to everybody. When AI exploded via ChatGPT earlier this year, something felt really different. And we're all like, what is happening over there? All of a sudden you want to try it. It's not just a tool where you're like, oh, okay, I don't really need this right now. Everybody wanted to get into it. It was something that gave us less doubt and more certainty that things were about to change in the world, not just in the technology space. And we were all, I think what happened was we were all probably, or most of us were already dabbling in AI, ML, LLM, whatever the AI umbrella is. And maybe that's why we started to lean into it a little bit more. We felt a little bit more connected to something that we were all trying to figure out. So subconsciously, we were maybe waiting for AI to emerge and show us we're about to go on this journey, which is really cool. And the other thing is that this is not something that's just disrupting technology, right? Where am I at? She won't go. Okay. So in macro, it's estimated that generative AI will add between $2.6 and $4.4 trillion a year to the global economy, right? Not just one space. This is all around the world, all the things that we do, everything that we touch. And guess what? People like us are the people that are going to help push this forward, that are going to help to set some standards, some boundaries, some restrictions, some delight using it out with our customers. So again, something that's going to rest on a lot of our shoulders. So AI is undoubtedly the biggest change for those of us in this room, and the thing that we're probably going to be experiencing in our careers, the biggest change, right? But something else is also very, very true. I've talked before about the last 100 years in product management and how the space has evolved. It's been around for about 100 years, for those of you who didn't know. In different terms, we've been called many different things, right? The earliest version of a PM was called brand men. But the true role of the product manager has undergone so many shifts over the last century, with more recent changes, specifically over the last 10 to 15 years, that has put the product manager in the center of the business, right? And not just the product manager, but the product and engineering and design teams right in the center of the business. What's happened is we're seeing heads of product, CPOs, whatever titles they have today, those making the calls on what to do on the product side, they have this seat at the table. They have this space where they're able to make decisions, and they're able to say, okay, we are going to ultimately impact retention. This is a business goal. This is not just usage of a feature or an area of your product. They're saying, here's how we're going to impact overall growth for the business. And then all of that translates into work and action for the product team to execute on. So it's big shoes to fill, right? So this is where we are starting to see, or not starting to see, we've seen over the past 10 to 15 years, we've gone from shipping features to really delivering outcomes for our companies. We had someone speak at one of our conferences recently. His name was Mayak Bawal, and he said something that I believe to be really, really true, which is product management is to be like an evolving sport. It's getting transformed yet again in the wake of AI. It's absolutely true. It's not going anywhere. And in order for us to evolve, we're going to need to embrace AI as a partner. We're all wondering what our careers and our lives are going to look like, but we're going to need to get on this train, and we're going to need to work on this together. I also had this quote come to me while I was figuring out what I'm going to talk to you all about. The funny story is, a while back, I was in fintech, and I was like, what am I doing in this space? Sorry, the domain just didn't speak to me, but I love technology, and I said, if I can change the experience for people that are in this industry, then I can probably change it for people at many different industries, so why not give it a shot, right? This gentleman named Chris said to me one day when I was demoing to him and his team, the world is changing with or without our participation. I can close my eyes and remember where I was sitting in New York City in the office, and I wrote it down on the little whiteboard next to me. A couple weeks later, Chris was actually hired into the company that I was working for, and he walked over and I was like, "You said this." And he said, "I said that because I wanted you to understand and to gain confidence, and I wanted your team to gain confidence that though we were an old bank, or the company he was working for was an old bank, he was going to get them moving. He was going to get them to embrace technology. And that is the mentality that we need to adopt right now together." So I can go on and on about all these different stories, but what I'm going to do today is walk you through how we should be looking at using AI and partnering with AI throughout the product management lifecycle. So let us start. We're going to start with business outcomes. That's where everybody needs to begin, right? So keeping our business outcomes in mind, let's walk through the life cycle at each stage, and I'm going to share what we're starting to uncover from our research, from our conversations with customers. A lot of my time is now spent really going out with customers and to customers and understanding what they're looking at from an AI partner and how they're looking to change their business. This is going to show the general impact that AI is going to have on the work we do as product managers and as teams overall. So let's again start, just as an example, a business outcome. We want to look at the first phase, which is discover. So in this phase, we're deep in understanding mode. We're working really hard to lean into user pain and understand the addressable market and understand all the opportunities that we have ahead of us, right? We have to ask the right questions aligned to the outcomes we want to see. And here's the example that I'm going to go into. A business goal that we can look at from the CPO's seat or head of product is reducing customer churn by a certain amount or a certain percentage, right? And you want to ask certain questions in order to get there. So some of these questions are, where are the pain points for users who are churning? Where are they getting stuck? Where are they dropping off? What's stopping these users from actually achieving their goals? What are some general trends and feedback that point to this increased frustration for users? What do some typical workflows look like for customers who are churning? And do we see some super users who are more highly satisfied engage in certain behaviors? And if so, what are they? There are probably a couple more questions that come to your mind as I look through this reducing churn, but these are just a few. And when you go in to answer these questions or get answers to these questions, it's taking so much work, right? And you really have to put a ton of work in with your teams to get the data from different sources, to understand where all these pains are and then synthesize everything. It takes a lot of time. So we're now starting to see the emergence of tools that will allow product managers to pull all of their data sources together and save time so that they can move on to the next stage of the product management lifecycle. They're also starting to identify patterns across multiple data sources that help them make decisions and get to resolution faster. And these tools will provide actionable recommendations and evidence to justify proposed investments with product managers or for product managers so that they can actually have more effective stakeholder engagement and stakeholder communication. I personally feel like the big win here is alignment. An outcome I hope to see, and something that I imagine that we will see here across teams, your immediate design, engineering, product team, is the alignment around the pain that your customers currently feel and the opportunity that exists in the market. You being able to synthesize all of this information quickly and pull that together for your teams are going to bring them closer to drive towards resolution. And I think this is a wonderful thing for teams who have some sort of a disconnect. And let's be very honest, a lot of us, especially earlier in our product careers, have experienced this where people are just not getting on the same page. So make sure that you're leaning into the data to align everybody. All right, somebody once said to me, treat data like currency, because it is. Make sure that everybody has a bit of it. Make sure they have the right amount of it, and it brings everybody together. Okay, the second phase in our life cycle is validate, right? In this one, we're looking to determine which options are going to be best to move forward with after we looked at all of that data that we talked about, or the points that we talked about earlier. We want to marry all the data sources and activities, but we're up against this challenge, this time challenge again, because we're trying to also move fast and determine what to do to move faster. All this synthesized data mentioned earlier produces multiple options for the team to work with. This is across user interviews, prototype usage, support, tickets, feedback, and then any qualitative data that you're getting from any sources before. So what I think we're going to see is with AI-powered tools, there'll be quicker analysis overall, and it'll be a lot easier to make it simple to even build prototypes for validation. Are there any technical, more advanced product people here who are building their own prototypes outside of design? Anybody? Raise your hand. Unicorns. Awesome. Love it. Okay. So I'm sure you might have seen this, but there's, LLMs like ChatGPT-4 can write better code with less explicit instructions now to help you get your prototypes faster. It's a huge win. Try it, and then show me how it works. Testing of these prototypes will also be super fast, right, with these types of tools. It'll get you the answers that you're looking for and steer you in the right direction so that you can move faster. A big win, in my opinion, here is going to be time back, right? Imagine a world where your design team is able to move this much faster because they're able to go out to customers with prototypes that they're actually iterating on really, really quickly and getting more of that information back so that engineers can have what they need and then start building. Okay, the third phase is build. In this phase, we're starting to see two things. But the assumption from a lot of people who are not in product is one big thing. They think that when you're in the build phase, that it's engineering, that's who you're liaising with is engineering and design. But in reality, as product people, we know that we are, again, right in the middle of the business. And we're engaging with product marketing, with sales, with customer success, with technical support, with all different partner teams in order to make sure that they know what's coming. The thing we have to do is we also have to protect the roadmap while we're doing that. Anybody ever have a situation where their roadmap looks beautiful, teams are executing, and then all of a sudden, hey, I've got this idea, I think it's really cool, we should just throw it in there? Okay, good, because if nobody raised their hands, that would have been a problem. Or not a problem, I would like to talk to you, but yes. Okay. You want to protect your roadmap, which means that you need to protect your engineering, you need to protect your design team as well, right? But on the flip side, you are also spending a ton of time with engineering and with design during the build phase. You're focusing with your immediate team. With AI-assistive tools, we're likely to see product managers start to draft epics and user stories with acceptance criteria that's more consistent and more easy to consume. So that for engineering, they're not relearning every time you're writing your stories. They're not relearning every time you're writing your briefs. These things sometimes take really short descriptions, and then all of a sudden it's spitting out what you need in order to get engineers to move faster. Consider the time it also takes to test, right? They can incorporate testing earlier by mapping a product's code base and quickly suggesting how feature changes impact the product overall. So the QA time reduces drastically. A big win here, I have to think a little bit about this one, is not just the time, but it's effective communication. Consistency in communication is really important in our space. I once spoke to a customer he was saying, hey, I really want to start product operations in my world, and a big pain I have is that every time we go to build something, I feel like we're starting from scratch. And I was like, talk to me about that. And he said, every document's different. Acceptance criteria is different. All of the PMM assets look different. I don't know what to do. So when you start to pull things together and communicate to your teams and your partners in a more consistent fashion, it helps everybody move that much faster. It also gives time back to communicate effectively with each team when you have that consistency. And all of this frees up time for product managers to get everything done across the board and out the door with all their partners. I think one thing, if you do it really well, is it also ultimately reduces scope creep, because plans will be shared earlier, again in a more consistent fashion, hopefully in one central place, along with that data piece to align everybody to your roadmap. So disruptions will hopefully happen less. This one is my favorite phase. I love launch because you're communicating with so many different people and so many different parties. Product managers are always in communication with product marketing or sales, so marketing efforts are in order to make sure that they're maximizing reach and efficiency and potential. It's also important for them to work hand in hand to determine monetization of products and new features. And we know that this should not wait. Hopefully, this should not wait until launch. You should be talking about that as early as possible, but a lot of teams tend to talk about this right in the beginning of launch planning. We want users to know what's coming really quickly, how it's going to impact their day-to-day, and how it's going to add value and ultimately, bring them better outcomes by using the product. Lots of tools today allow product managers to reach their customers where they are in-app and provide guidance to make this happen, right? There are lots of great tools in the market for this. What we think we're going to see in this phase with the addition of AI tools is that these tools are going to fuel automated smart releases, right? They're going to help determine timing of releases with more confidence, which then helps impact other activities by your partner teams, right? A lot of other teams need to take their cue from whatever you're doing in terms of getting your product out the door. There'll be more controlled rollouts of features with go-to-market assets that are aligned and targeted to your customers based on usage and feedback. So more efficiency overall, more effectiveness as you launch your product. And this one feels pretty simple, but it's really big, right? Like more automatically generated dashboards and reporting. This is huge. We obviously use this for a communication tool to align everybody across the board. This will help us just generally track adoption and make sure that we're sharing how we're tracking against business goals. And something that we started talking about at Pendo a little bit more was product-led growth and how all of this will impact launches, right? You think about the amount of experiments that are run when you're in a growth team, especially a PLG team. And this takes a lot of communication and the right communication in app. So we're starting to see that we think there's going to be products that are going to help us highlight products that are going to show us which features to highlight to our customers based on behavior, so that all of this will lead to increased conversion and ultimately more revenue in the product-led workflow. And another big win here is alignment. So very similar to the discover phase. This time, it's making sure that your customers, both your internal customers who are sales and customer success, and your paying customers are aligned to what's coming out the door and how to make use of it and what to do with it. In the evaluate phase, we're going deep into analysis of what's working and what's not. So we're starting to create this transparency to continue to get buy-in for future decisions, right, for a feature. So when you're evaluating, it's really easy for stakeholders to turn around and say, okay, well, that's out the door, let's move on to something else. That's not healthy. Very clear to everybody, that's not healthy. You need to take a look at what you just invested in and make sure that you know whether you need to continue, how you're going to iterate, or if you're going to kill it. And this helps to open up lines of communication. So in this phase, we're going to probably see more dashboard creation and maturation again, and we'll gain more visibility into where users are getting stuck, where they're happy, and how you're tracking towards those business goals and those goals that you set in the beginning for your team. I'm hoping we're also going to see more predictions of what to do next as you move the feature forward, which is going to be nice. And again, I mentioned these dashboards. So big wins here are alignment and time. I don't have to belabor this one. The more aligned you have everybody to what it is you're doing and how it's working, the better it is. And then imagine what power this will give the product manager to have a critical eye, again, on what to do next, while simultaneously validating ideas with customers for their upcoming roadmap, right? So they're going back to the earlier stage at the same time. This is the last phase, but we all know it's continuous, right? So as you iterate and you figure out what improvements to prioritize, AI will once again prove transformative in each phase of the product management lifecycle. We'll see during this phase all the capabilities I mentioned earlier being utilized to make more data-informed decisions, generate potential changes and updates faster, and share progress across the business like never before. Product management is about getting better all the time. I'll go back to what I said in the beginning of this talk here, which is that we've evolved, right? But one of the things that sets a product manager apart from a project or a program manager is that we are continuously iterating. We're not stopping. We're not checking off something on a list. We're continuously trying to make this experience better for the customer. So quick recap, some powerful ways to leverage AI that we believe is coming. Get product discovery insights faster. It'll help you make better product decisions. This will help you and your team ultimately build the right thing faster. Personalize from day one the experience for your customers by learning what they're doing in-app and continuously learning so that you're more effective with your communication. And then fuel that continued success for your team. And the 3 major wins I highlighted here for us in this space as we embrace AI is alignment with everybody, especially your immediate team, the time you'll get back, and the communication across the board. The rate at which we'll be able to deliver continuous value and make decisions will be so much faster than it has been in the past. But it's critical to remember that we all have to keep up, right? Customers are going to come to expect speed as a result of the global impact that AI is going to have on not just tech, but the world around us. So, we also have to do this very responsibly. I was at a conference in Scotland, and something I will highlight is that over in Europe, they are so hardcore about implementing AI with tons of safety measures. And when I come back here to the States, that is not something that you hear that's front and center. Most of one conference I spoke at was all around making sure that AI is done in a very safe way. Share what we're learning, especially as we're making mistakes when we're using and implementing AI in our own products. And let's not look at it as something that's going to replace the product manager role, but embrace it as something that's going to augment it. Let's use it to help us continue to mature the space that we've seen mature so gracefully over the last 10, 15, 100 years at this point. And use it wisely to maximize the time we've been given, which is the non-renewable resource that we have in our lives. For those of you who are interested in learning a bit more of what I covered in this talk, you can just scan this QR code. It's going to take you to our AI for Product Managers ebook. And that concludes my talk today. Thank you very much for your time.